So I decided to bring in my little breakfast in for the video because today's video is about food and clothes. You'll see what I mean in a second. Howdy y'all, I hope you guys are all doing well, I hope you guys are safe, and I hope you guys are healthy. My name is Josh, and I absolutely love clothing and personal style. So if you're into that type of content, feel free to subscribe to me here on YouTube, as well as follow me here on Instagram at where's_Galdo. Trying not to choke. But today's video is going to be about clothing and food. Wait, I already said that. So I see a lot of different types of outfits, like across a wide array of different styles every single day on my social medias. And I've kind of come to the realization that the way that I appreciate outfits is very similar to the way that I appreciate certain foods or dishes and stuff like that. And if you think about it more, like what makes up a good outfit, I mean, proportions, cohesiveness, color, texture, silhouette, all these different variances. Is that the right word? Probably not. But same thing with food. What makes up a good dish? The cohesiveness, colors, textures. A lot of the words can be used very interchangeably, which is very interesting to me. So I'm going to be talking about fashion equivalents to food, or vice versa, or whatever. But if these styles apply to you or you dress this certain way, this is an overgeneralized version. This is not to talk trash about anyone or say that one style is better than the other. It's just an overgeneralization. Let's get right into it. So a very easy first one is going to be Gorpcore. It's in the name, G-O-R-P, Gorpcore. G-O-R-P stands for good old raisins and peanuts, and that's exactly it. It's trail mix, it's granola. Pacific Northwest Gorpcore very much reminds me of very outdoorsy, utility type of people. And yeah, Gorpcore is granola. And that's like with brands like Patagonia, North Face, Arc'teryx, sometimes Solomon shoes. It's a very, very popular style because it is so practical for a lot of places. I mean, if you're someone who likes the outdoors, Gorpcore is absolutely perfect for you. But yeah, granola people is like a term that I've heard used by a lot of people who are from the Pacific Northwest, but also like are just outdoorsy people in general. Out in Las Vegas, a lot of people hike, and a lot of people dress in Gorpcore out here for sure. Next one is one of my favorites, Avant-garde clothing. That's CCP, Guidi, M.A. Cross, Isaac Salam, or Carpe Diem. A lot of these like very esoteric, some of them are esoteric, very high quality yet very expensive clothing. I love avant-garde clothing, but guaranteed if I had to make a food analogy for them, it's going to be omakase sushi. And why do I say that? Omakase sushi is a style of sushi where you go to a restaurant and the sushi chef will give you things practically based on like availability for that day, the freshest stuff, your personal preference. The whole experience is very like bespoke, and that's what reminds me of like avant-garde clothing too. It is very like tailored to exactly this type of like style. It's utterly high quality materials used and processes used, but it comes at a very hefty price point. I went to an omakase place with my girlfriend I think a number of years ago for our anniversary, and it was like $250 a person, something like that. So it is kind of a crazy price tag to pay, but it was one of the best experiences food-wise that I've ever had. Another style favorite of mine is going to be Americana. I absolutely adore Americana, and if I had to name a brand that was kind of like the poster child for a modern day Americana, I would say Ralph Lauren, specifically Double RL. Double RL does absolutely incredible work. I have been to multiple locations, and their execution, not only in their clothing but their retail spaces, is really, really cool in my eyes. Their leathers feel incredible. Their denim's really, really good, and they do a really good job at distressing and repairing denim. So their distressed and repaired denim looks super authentic. Whoa, can't talk right now. But in my eyes looks really, really good. You can also go to other brands like Visvim, or you could just go the vintage route. There's like classical, just straight up Levi's or Wrangler, or there's so many brands that you can get classic Americana vibes from. And what is the food equivalent? It is going to be another kind of very American type of food, hamburgers or cheeseburgers, my personal favorite food. In terms of this style, Americana includes a lot of color, a lot of texture, a lot of just kind of heritage looking things, and pretty similarly with a burger, that you can get your classical burgers. You can get your like California style burger that has like lettuce, tomato, onion, and pickle. You can get different regional types of burgers across America, which I think is also very fascinating. But you could get high-end Americana where it's like you're buying things for thousands of dollars, like at Double RL, making a super expensive fit. Or you could go Visvim, spend a ton of money on Visvim. You could also go on like a vintage hunt and then get a bunch of classic, like truly old items and make a nice Americana outfit for a lot cheaper. Same thing with burgers. You could get a super high-end burger, which is not my preference, but you could also get a super low-end burger that is also delicious. So, burgers are Americana. The next style is going to be quiet luxury. I'm not a particular fan of it. If you dress this way, there's nothing wrong with it. I want to say that very clearly. But I do have a little bit of a bone to pick with quiet luxury, just because when I think of quiet luxury, the food equivalent is going to be like an overpriced pasta with wine pairing. A place that like, oh, we're gonna go to a high profile restaurant, get their signature dish. It's gonna be like $200 per person. And it's just way more expensive than it really needs to be for something that could be very simple but isn't. Quiet luxury is oftentimes like worn by a lot of people that have a lot of money. It's quiet luxury, and it's a lot of commercial luxury brands, but the understated items that they sell. So it could totally be like Gucci or Louis, but the things that aren't like super like heavily logoed or anything like that. Oftentimes it's Loro Piana or a brand that I cannot pronounce, Zegna, whatever that is called, or Berluti, or there are just so many different quiet luxury brands. And the argument made against me could be maybe I'm just not rich enough to appreciate it. And maybe that is correct. But the fact of the matter is that I find it boring. Not that I find pasta boring. I love pasta. I absolutely adore pasta so much. But overpriced pasta is what quiet luxury reminds me of. The stereotype mentality that I imagine when I think of someone who is into quiet luxury is that the higher the price tag, the higher the quality, which isn't always the case, but of course to each their own. The next style I wanted to talk about is Y2K. Y2K is one that I think is better suited for younger people. It is very kind of grunge inspired, kind of skater, kind of a lot of different things. And as someone who grew up in the early 2000s, I mean, like, I think it's cool that this is like within the fashion meta as of right now, but it's not something as like an almost 30-year-old I'm not interested in participating really. Like a lot of Jinko jeans, a lot of like oversized shirts and stuff. There is like equal inspiration coming from like hip hop culture and rock culture. It is this weird meshing. And the problem that I have with it is I swear that everyone I see that is wearing like a very Y2K type of fit is like super young. Like they were not even born yet in like the early 2000s. And when I see them, I'm like, that's really weird to me. But I mean, the food that best embodies Y2K, for me, in my opinion, is hot dogs. Hot dogs and a bag of chips. Now, there are many different ways to embody like a Y2K style. However, there are a lot of different ways that you can dress up a hot dog. At the end of the day, it's still a hot dog. And I'm very biased. I don't very much like hot dogs. But yeah, it just gives hot dog energy. I've tried many different like super dressed up, fancy, nice hot dogs. But I'm like, I've never had a hot dog that I'm like, this is like one of my favorite foods ever. Like, ever. Chili dogs are fine. A Seattle dog, I think, was something that I tried, or a Chicago dog. No offense to those places. I just don't like hot dogs. The next style I want to talk about is going to be one that I think has dropped off in popularity quite a bit as of the last like maybe 5 years, and that's going to be the archive people. Archive people usually dress remarkably well, and they have like an encyclopedic knowledge of the clothing that they buy, which is super cool. I love the idea of that. I'm not much of an archive person, but I do appreciate anybody who is like under that category. There are a lot of different brands that are like very luxury and high end that they buy from, but because most of their clothing is secondhand because it's so old, oftentimes it's cheaper than buying luxury at retail, like Raf Simons or Undercover. I love old Undercover so much. And then there's the more like esoteric ones, like vintage Armani apparently is like really cool. Didn't know that. Never been interested in Armani. For a time, vintage Dolce and Gabbana was really like popular. These people are really well researched, really in depth, and really dedicated to their clothing. And I can appreciate that. But the food that they remind me of is like a dry aged steak. It's like the older, the better. The funkier, the better. They care a lot about a very specific thing. And I think that embodies archive people perfectly. For the archive people, I forgot to mention archive Helmut Lang. I feel like if I didn't mention that, they'd probably come for me in the comments. So, archive Helmut, also a really big community. And the last style that I wanted to bring up is going to be the Margiela Minimalist. They're the people that have like super big baggy pants, oftentimes chinos, or like a really like equally as oversized top, oftentimes in tabby loafers, or German Army trainers. Honestly, I think it is a wonderful good look for every single day. Literally like super modular because you can change out any portion of it and it'll still look really good. It is a very well-rounded style. And what I also appreciate about it is that it's very like body type inclusive. Since everything is like pretty oversized and very like standard fitting on a body, like it is very easy to like mold your personal body type to what fit this style. Inclusivity is great. And my best food analogy would be a coffee and a croissant, which is funny because I have a coffee and croissant today, but super plain, and not just any croissant, a butter croissant, just like the most plain croissant that you can get. Maybe if you're feeling a little spicy, you'll get a chocolate croissant or something, but the most basic and standard like breakfast meal, but it's perfect. It is perfect. It is exactly what you need and nothing you don't. There's no bells and whistles. It just is good. And that's exactly like for the food as well as this style. And that's about all I had to say about food and clothing so far. I thought this exercise was actually quite enjoyable. I really had a good time like trying to come up with the analogies to relate to different styles. I may or may not do this again in the future sometime, but I hope you guys found it. Whoa. Jumbling up my words here. I hope you guys found it at least mildly entertaining, and I appreciate your guys' time. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, but other than that, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later.